Hello and welcome to Season 4 of Creative Glue, where we explore the common bonds that connect creatives from around the world. I'm your host, Scott Robinson, and today I'm joined by Theresa Robbins-Dudeck, Professor of Theatre at Portland State University and a scholar-practitioner working across performance, teaching, and applied improvisation. Now, Theresa's path into this world began on stage at a young age and before evolving into directing, teaching, and a deeper exploration of improvisation as both a practice and a way of understanding how people connect and respond to each other. Over the past 3 decades, her work has moved between theatre, academia, and applied settings, from directing productions and leading ensembles to working with organisations and communities around the world. She's also widely recognised for her work preserving and continuing the legacy of improvisation pioneer Keith Johnstone. Theresa, thank you so much for joining me today. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's great. I love this. Part of the creative glue.
I love it. So I think it was really interesting when looking at your work about how many different spaces you've touched.
Yes.
Performance, teaching, working with people in all kinds of environments, and how they all seem to connect. So maybe to start with, when people ask you what you do, how do you usually explain that?
My goodness. That's people do ask me first of all, they say, what is applied improvisation? Because that's a lot of my work. I guess I'm a theater practitioner scholar, but I do a lot of things, as you mentioned. I would say I help people using the tools of improvisation and theater and improvisation to become better human beings, to relate better, to decode the coded dance of behavior better, to build relationships, to help them become better leaders, and basically it's social skills training, the work I do in applied improvisation. And then in my professor job here at Portland State University, I teach theater history. I teach theater and social change. I run improvisation ensembles. I direct. I'm kind of doing everything. I've always been like that, though. I've always liked to do, anything that has to do with theater and its multitude of applications. I mean, I really like to, show people that theater is not in a silo somewhere. It's part of our life, that we are role playing every day in life, and
Wow.
we can learn how to do it better.
I love that. So, I mean, looking back at your path, I mean, you've done everything there. You've performed, you've directed, you've taught. What feels like the thread that's carried through all that for you?
I think improvisation, certainly. I didn't realize that improvisation was the thread. In my undergraduate education, I took improvisation and I really loved it, and it allowed me to put my skills as a dancer and an actor and a singer all together and sort of released me. I'm quite a perfectionist, and I'm self-aware of how I appear and how I produce and how people see me in the world. And I think improvisation was the thing that released me. It allowed me to be strange and ridiculous and silly and grotesque, and I was it freed me. And so that's been kind of the thing, not only as a teacher too. I feel like in the classroom, I'm using a lot of the improv tools that I learned from Keith Johnstone. Watching him as a teacher, I use those same tools and in my theater history classes. That idea of being ready for the curveballs, being ready to make a spontaneous shift in direction if I need to, if another topic of exploration comes up, or meeting the students where they are. I mean, I think teachers need to learn improvisation. I definitely feel like it is a tool that is really, really powerful for teachers to understand how to navigate the constantly changing classroom and the dynamics, and meeting the students. Following the follower, right, is one of the things that we say in improvisation. That attunement skill is something that has helped me in everything. And also the idea of just being willing to say yes, even if it scares me a little bit. Uh, so I feel like I've especially, after grad school, I kind of said yes to things and to opportunities that I didn't know if I could do it or not, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to say yes and see what happens. So that kind of like leaping without a safety net has really been a part of my life for the past 20 years, I would say, where before improvisation was my central thing, I was more careful, you know. Yeah. I don't know if I answered that question, but yeah,
Well, what I
improvisation
got
is the
was
thread.
that all those drama classes that I took in high school and all the improv we did there has obviously had a profound impact upon my ability to do what I do today. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, and that's what I love about applied improvisation too, because suddenly I'm working with people over in applied linguistics or speech and hearing, or the, environmental sciences or something. And I'm helping them tell their stories in a deeper, more profound way to engage with their audiences, scientists and non-scientists, just being better at telling their stories and relating to people. And yeah, it's kind of it's like I often see these like aha moments where a light bulb goes off and they realize they can role play, they can step into they can be theatrical too, and engage their audience, and um communicate better. I mean, Alan Alda, I don't know if you know the actor Alan Alda from MASH.
yes.
He's a big advocate of improvisation in the sciences and the medical fields, and he wrote a book uh, about that, right? And he's a great example of somebody in our field who's out there using improvisation um, to change the landscape of, you know, corporate America, sciences, business, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
because it's interesting you mentioned that, because I was curious to sort of understand how you think that or how you've noticed, I guess, how people show up in those different environments. It's one thing about, probably people knowing about improv on stage and those sorts of things and within that theater environment. But, you talked about teachers before and
Yeah.
classrooms and now organizations and those sorts of things. So, how do you find you see it across those different environments?
Oftentimes they come into a space and they're a little hesitant at first. So you have to baby steps into the process. Maybe not even call it improvisation. Maybe say, we're going to be doing some interactive, on your feet, relationship building, team building. Call it something else. And then starting out with extra, I don't like to call them icebreakers, but they're icebreakers, and various impro techniques that allow them to be obvious, that allow them to be themselves, to bring themselves to the playing field, so to speak. And then also encouraging failure, because that's the thing that stops people, because they want to get it right. So right from the beginning, I stress that you're not supposed to get it right. We're if you fail, you take a failure bow and we applaud you. right? You're taking risks. So if you're not taking risk, right, then you're playing it safe, and that's not what this space is about. This is about, a safe space to be brave and to try new things. And so changing their attitude towards failure or about failure, and then telling them that this is not about being funny. This is about being obvious, being human beings, and that the humor will come out of that relationship, that authentic behavior, that you don't have to bring it in. You don't have to bring the humor. It's going to be there anyway when you're relating with someone. And then suddenly you see like the stress dripping off as you get them engaged with each other and playing, and then they're laughing and having fun, and you can just see the shoulders relax and the chest relax, and then you start like, upping the ante a little bit and doing a little more, maybe some status work or some split attention things, or more, find those tools and techniques that are geared toward the issues that they're dealing with or they're trying to work on.
Yeah.
It's really great. It's kind of it's powerful. And I think that's when I do when we always have a debrief after every activity, and just hearing, they teach me every single time I'm with a different group, they teach me about their profession and like how it connects, how improvisation connects to, the work of an accountant or an engineer or
Yeah. Wow.
whatever, so there's always connections though. And
And I
it's
imagine
really
that
exciting.
works quite different to, because I know you've just come off directing Spring Awakening. So, something like that's a completely
Yeah.
different thing again. I mean, but what stood out about working with a group, to bring something like that together?
Oh my goodness. That's also, as a director of a musical, you are you are pretty much, I mean, you're directing, but you're also dealing with a fight choreographer, an intimacy director, um, a choreographer, your musical director, all the other designers and elements. And this was a huge musical for our department. We hadn't performed a musical in 14 years, and we sold
Wow.
out the big performance hall. It was magical. It was incredible, but I felt like I was juggling the whole time. It it was so intense and so fast, and I had to keep everybody on their toes. But I think that improvisation mindset of soft focus and allowing information to come to you instead of, you know, forcing, like I have to do this, like just really just allowing information to come to me and being okay with all the uncertainty and emotional roller coaster. Like I'm really good at navigating that now. And I think that's because of improvisation training.
Yeah.
Because I noticed during COVID, I know you interviewed my sister a couple of weeks, my sister who's a
Yeah.
cinematographer.
Alicia.
Yes, Alicia, and we talk a lot about improvisation in her field too, like how she has to navigate personalities on the movie sets,
Yeah.
and how status plays a part of that, and pecking orders, and like how you decode the dance around you, and how you might strategically lower your status to engage someone, or
Well,
raise your
she also
status when
talked about
needed.
the need to learn how to not just say yes from doing so much improv, to actually being able to say no
Yes.
to things. So
Yeah,
there
absolutely.
was some unlearning there.
A polite nope. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of a myth about that you have to always say yes. It's more about like what is the process that's unfolding, and how can I be a part of that process? What's the story that needs to be told? But sometimes the story, is going in the wrong direction, and nope is the right answer. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know where I was, but yeah, I think, during COVID, I was saying because I worked a lot online doing applied improvisation facilitation online during COVID, and a lot of improvisers were getting work. But I think because improvisers, if you're walking the walk and living, with that improvisation mindset, you're able to navigate the curveballs and the uncertainty and the chaos. We always say improvisation is like balancing between, structure and chaos, like finding the middle ground there, not falling into the abyss. And I think we were able to ride that wave and like, okay, great. Here we are. What do we do with this moment? How do we make this work online? How do we make it work on Zoom? How do we bring this, how do we get into people's lives when we're isolated? And we found ways to connect that were so amazing. It was really fun. I sometimes miss like being online and doing, because I could have like a group from Intel with 100 people in Zoom, watching them all engage, and they, after many months of not being able to engage or being isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
was certainly something we found was if everybody was online, things could work really, really well. If you had groups of people, so, 10 people might be in a boardroom and then 3 or 4 other people online, doesn't work anywhere
it
near as
doesn't
well.
work.
But the
No.
dynamics of everybody being almost in isolation and then but coming together as a group had
Yes,
some fascinating outcomes
it
in that
did.
period. So,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's amazing. So I
Yeah.
guess when you start working with people like that, you step into the room, whether it's a cast or a team, what do you tend to look for early on?
What do I look for early on? People that are not self-absorbed, that want to connect with others. And I mean, I always, I don't always say this right on day one, but I say good improvisers understand that your work is good if you've inspired your partner. And so I like to look at that with actors, even, not in an improvisation setting, but are they there trying to make the other person look good? Are they there to unleash their partner's imagination, or are they self-absorbed and they're acting in their own little bubble? So, and it is kind of um, amazing how many students have taken lots of improvisation classes and have been on like competitive improv teams and things like that. And you can see they're improvising in their own bubble. They're not paying attention to the
Mm,
story or to their partner. And they're so, what am I trying to, self-conscious, like
yeah.
self-conscious. And so it's not that I can't work with somebody like that. It depends. It's like, yeah, absolutely. But you got to break them out of that and make them understand that they're only going to get better when they start practicing that external focus. And it takes the nerves away too. When you realize it's not about you, it's about that person, about making them look good, then suddenly you look good because they're looking good. Like everything gets better. Uh, yes. Yeah. Make your partner look good. Take care of your partner. Yeah.
That sounds like sound advice, full stop, really. Just in
Yeah.
general, good life advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, you've got that group of people that might be either ideally suited or maybe a bit too self-absorbed. What do you do when you've got someone maybe that's a bit more hesitant or unsure of themselves? What have you found that loosens people up or gets people engaged if they're coming into these situations a bit more hesitant?
I think, again, just, making sure that you don't put them on the spot too soon, that you give them, I get back to that idea of baby steps, allowing them to, I mean, there's one little warm up I love to do with every group. I get two people together and one asks the other, what's not wrong with your life? What's not wrong with your life? And they ask it over and over. So it basically sets the bar low. And I always demo. So if you ask me, go ahead and ask me what's not wrong with your life.
What's not wrong with your life?
I have a really good cup of tea right here. Ask me again.
What's not wrong with your life?
I'm talking to you and you're in Australia. This is
So is it, and that
yeah.
just continues to just break that
Yeah, you
down and
keep
break that
doing
down.
that. And then And then at some point, the partner, if they hear something that they find interesting, they can say, tell me more.
Yeah.
And suddenly that person who was shy or hesitant realizes that even their mundane daily routine is interesting.
Mm. Yep.
That something like, oh well, I have, if they say something like, my cat made a friend today. Tell me more, right? And then suddenly you see people light up and they're telling their stories. And then I just remind them, what you just did was you shared your obvious self. The bar was set low. We weren't saying what's great about your life. And yet that's still interesting. It's still interesting to other people because your life is different, but you still connect, right? So again, I feel like I sound like Keith, but he says, when you move further and further away from what is obvious about you, you lose what's also unique about you. If you try too hard to be clever or think outside the box, then you're moving away from what makes you original. And I think once people realize that they're enough, that they have enough, they have stories, they have lots of things to share, and that it's not about, you know, bringing in huge fantastical ideas. It's about the obvious and the everyday, and we can make stories out of that, and other people are interested in that. Then again they start, leaning into it, and
I guess
yeah,
that
and
goes
enjoying
back
it.
to something you were talking about earlier, like getting people to um, get over that fear of failure,
Yes.
and that, I guess for you, how has that, changed over time, your relationship with that idea of failure?
I'm not so much a perfectionist anymore. I'm okay with letting things. I'll tell you, as a director, as a teacher, facilitator, everything I do, I'm okay with going in without a plan. I used to like meticulous notes, and I would say my theater history class, I'm not willing to fail as much when I teach that because I'm teaching history and I want to make sure I get as close to the truth as I can. But I'm okay with um, letting go of being the expert in the room and creating a space for the students to be the experts to teach me. And that, I think that takes years and years of getting comfortable with knowing yourself. I mean, I'm pretty open and vulnerable in my classrooms now, where I would say 15 years ago, I was like, oh, I have to be the expert and the professional, and I have to know all the answers. And now I'm okay with saying, you know what? I don't know that.
Yep.
Look it up. You have computers in front of you, look it up. Um, and making mistakes and being okay with, like, oh yeah, I was wrong. I'm going to backtrack there, and not letting it, you know, uh, defeat me.
Yeah.
Being okay with being wrong it's freeing. It's really
Most
freeing.
definitely. I mean, I
Yeah.
grew up with a father that sort of taught me that failure is daring not to try, and so
Failure is
his
daring not
philosophy
to
was
try.
that you can find many ways that don't work, but if you don't ever give it a crack, that's your definition of failure. So he
I
tried to
like
teach me, I
that though.
guess, to not fear falling over,
Yeah,
but to learn from that, to take that as a
that's
part of the
right.
experience, and that you don't come up with something great. You don't get to amazing and brilliant and wonderful and incredible without making a whole bunch of mistakes. And that those
That's right.
mistakes don't mean that you're no good. It just means you found ways that didn't work.
Yeah, that's right. Get back up on the horse, try again, try something new, keep throwing stuff. There's a quote by Seth Godin that I use in my classes all the time. Um, what is it? Big ideas are little ideas that no one killed too soon. And I
Yep.
love that too, because sometimes we're in that little idea phase, and they don't seem big enough. And yet they're the baby steps, they're the steps that are going to lead to the big idea, but we have to get through those those little ideas first and find how they connect.
Yeah.
But oftentimes in a world of perfectionists, you get shut down because of your little idea because it's not quite, doesn't measure up.
Yeah.
Um, and yet it might be the perfect thing that the big idea needs, but it was shut down too soon, right? So I really
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we also use a term here at my agency around pluralism. So the belief
Yeah,
in more than one idea, so
that's
that
right.
everybody can have an idea. It doesn't matter whether, just because you're a producer doesn't mean that you can't have a creative idea over here, or just
That's
because
right.
you're a creative doesn't mean you can't have a strategic thought over here. So just because it's not your lane, inverted commas, doesn't mean that you can't have an idea and be part of the conversation and input something that actually changes the whole focus of what you're about to do and
Love it.
what comes
Yeah.
together. So uh,
You all are operating like improvisers.
yeah, no, it's really curious because I'd never kind of looked at it that way. But the great part of this podcast has been finding all these different creative people and exploring what it is that is the ingredients of that creative glue. And it's
Yeah,
really interesting today to be exploring that this element that, I have witnessed, I guess, that improvisation needing to be a part of what you do. We're problem solvers, and I think a big
that's
part
right.
of that is adaptability, and that's what you've been talking about, is that, something new comes up, someone says something or some problem comes to your desk, and now you've got to pivot, you've got to move, you've got to shape, you've got to reform around whatever is about to happen, that was different to where you were going before, just like an
That's
improv
right.
script, like, okay, we were going one way, but someone's just thrown a curveball in there, and now we've got
It's
to go in a
great. It's a
different direction.
gift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how do we now embrace
The
that and move
unknown,
forward,
right? Absolutely. Harness the power of uncertainty. And I mean, and the idea on ideas, Keith Johnstone would say, ideas are commonplace. We swim in an ocean of them. The best ideas are the ones that inspire your partner.
Yeah,
So don't get married to your ideas. Just throw ideas out there. It's so good for ideation, processes and things like that. It's people get so, married to their ideas and it's my idea and I'm going to hold on to it tightly, but that's that's not the attitude of an improviser. Improviser is like, I'm going to throw things out there and see what lights you up, what works. And then back to the idea of the theories underpinning all of these tools we use in improvisation. Every improvisation game or technique was probably created to solve a problem. So once we understand that, then we understand the theories underpinning it, then we can apply this in so many ways. But yeah, every game that Keith created, or Viola Spolin, the godmother of improvisation, created, was because they were trying to solve a problem between human relationships or actors on stage, or how people, the behavior, trying to find authentic behavior, or get people to communicate or split their attention so that other processes could function. And so but everything, so that's what I really love about Keith's work, and what I bring into my classroom as well, is a reminder that this is fun and this is play, and it's also really applicable because there's theories underpinning it, and we're learning these things because they solve human problems. They're, yeah. So I think that helps too. Like when you have people that are a little more heady, being able to talk them through the theories and the processes and why we do this game and why we do this technique, and it opens their mind in a different way. Some people just want to play and do it, and other people really want to get into the nitty gritty of it all. So yeah, I
yeah.
I do for sure.
Do you think that a natural level of curiosity helps?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Because I think
I
that's
do.
certainly when I look at the way we go about what we term a discovery session with clients, is it's that
Hmm.
inherent curiosity that allows us to navigate, and not often I'll deliberately go in without too much information because I don't want to have a headspace where I've already
Love that.
decided what I want to do. We'll do the research after, but that discovery session is about that insatiable
Yeah.
curiosity to extract what you can and go on a mission to really find out what you want to find, and you don't know what you're
Yeah.
going to find. You don't know what questions you're necessarily going to ask. You just start the process and trust in the process, and after that you can go and do all the research and you can ask follow-up questions and those sorts of things. But yeah,
That's right. Yeah, at the beginning, I mean, yeah, it's like the beginning of an ideation session or something. You don't want to pre-plan, because if you pre-plan, you're shutting down all of the possible journeys that it could take with multiple minds working together in a collaborative way. That collaborative creation is so much fun. And the curiosity element of being like, oh my gosh, you know, I was thinking it was going to go this way, but you took it that way, and that blew my mind, and that was so much fun. And then suddenly I get to be on a journey that I was unanticipated. And, so we always say, yeah, mistakes are gifts, and ideas that unleash your imagination by your partners, and not being in control. I think some of the best improvisation, we're doing mask work right now here, a grotesque character mask with
I
my
did
improv
notice the
ensemble.
masks on the top shelf
Yeah,
there. You know?
yeah, and those aren't my really powerful ones are hidden away over here in my case, but it's called mask and trance work, because when the improviser puts the mask on and then suddenly sees themselves in the mirror with this mask and the sound, this otherworldly sound that comes out. My improvisers the other day said, I couldn't feel my fingers afterwards. Because it's a kind of state of trance. It's like you're a conduit for something that's happening. But for me, that kind of mask work is the most freeing thing you'll ever feel, because you're really getting away from your socially constructed self and allowing something else to take over. And I think good improvisation is like that too. You're really a conduit for the creative energies of everybody in the room, of the space. That idea of being curious, not only about the person in front of you, but the space you're in, and imagining it differently. And it's it's joyous. It's really fun.
Well,
And
I'm
yeah.
really pleased to, because I was looking at those masks and wondering whether they interacted in that. Equally, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s, so I can't help but notice that, there's Ernie sitting there as well,
Oh yeah,
wondering
Ernie.
how he fits into the whole thing as well.
Yes. Oh, let me get him. So I'll show you, like Ernie. So when I do exercises where we talk about how audiences read expressions, sometimes we'll do scenes with Ernie where we'll just sit Ernie on the stage, and the other improviser acts with Ernie, and then I ask the audience, like, how many times did you look at Ernie to see how he reacted? And they're like, oh my gosh. And they look at Ernie, and he reacts all the time, because he's kind of a mass character. But the idea that sometimes less is more,
Yeah.
and allowing audiences to endow you or to read your expressions instead of feeling like you have to do everything. That's why we use Ernie in scenes, because he's a reminder that you don't have to do anything but just sit there. And a story comes out of this, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he sometimes gets abused in scenes, poor guy.
Do you think
But
that
yeah,
also because there is some personality attached to that? If that was a nondescript puppet compared to Ernie, where you might have a preconceived conception of his personality and his character, does that have an impact and effect because people kind of feel like they almost know Ernie?
yeah, but sometimes I just bring in stuffed animals. They have to have big
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
The big eyes are really important, and all the masks that I use have very big eyes. There's something about how we look into the eyes of, like they're the windows to the soul or
Mm.
something. They just tell us everything. Like if I was just going to say, Ernie, how are you feeling today? And he just sits there.
I feel
He's
pretty good.
answering. Yeah, exactly. Like, he doesn't have to say anything, but we're already endowing him with some
Yeah.
kind of personality or anyway. Yeah, but you could use any animal with big eyes, any stuffed animal with big eyes, and it
Yeah.
works.
Amazing. I
I
love
like
that.
Ernie. Yeah.
So I guess so. What are you most excited to be spending time on right now? You've just obviously come off the back of a massive
Yeah.
production. So
Yes.
what's now and next?
So I co-founded the Global Improvisation Initiative, which is a initiative to spread the joy and power of theatrical improvisation around the world, basically. And I co-founded this initiative with a colleague who is the chair of theater down at UC Irvine in Southern California. And we've done 3, 4 symposiums now. The first symposium was in Southern California. The second was in London in 2019. Then we did an online big version of it with 500 improvisers from 50 different countries online during COVID. And now this summer, we're doing it here at Portland State University in
Very
July.
cool.
So it's performances at night, people coming all over we might not have as big of a global footprint this time because of the state of our nation right now, as you know. But we have some improvisers, facilitators coming from Japan and Africa and across the United States coming to Portland, Oregon in July for 4 days of sharing ideas and processes and performances. So we'll have workshops, roundtables, and the last day is always an open space where people get to, propose ideas for exploration. And it's just the one in London, the last in-person one we did in London was so magical, um, and just just a wonderful gathering, all ages from
Amazing.
so many places all over the world coming together and just sharing the joy and love of this. We had dancers, we had contact improvisation through dance, we had improvisation in museums and art projects that were inspired by improvisation and lots of hard-hitting topics too for like panel discussions and things. So it's the only um, it's the only symposium of its kind that is not just comedy improv or like a festival of improv troupes coming together. It's actually a conference. So it allows academic folks like me who write about this and publish in the field of improvisational studies to come and present their work, as well as improvisers to come perform and practice and teachers to teach and yeah. So that's very exciting, and that's where my focus is between now and July is all teaching my classes, of course, but also the applied improvisation. Global Improvisation Initiative, the GII. Yeah.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Sounds like a super
Yeah.
exciting project. So, yeah, everybody look out for that in July.
Yeah. Come on out.
So, look, before we wrap up, we'd love to do this little thing called the Fast Five. So, we'll
Ooh,
just ask
okay.
5 questions and you can give
Oh
us
gosh.
a
I have
one-word
to
answer.
improvise.
Yeah, I know, right?
One
One-word
word.
answers. One-word
Oh, good.
answers. Sometimes they might be hyphenated. So we'll start with an easy one. Your go-to instinct, yes or no?
Yes.
Uh, spotlight or sidelines?
Spotlight.
Love it. City or nature?
Oh, I would say nature. Yeah. Yeah. Nature.
Excellent. Coffee or wine?
Oh, that's hard.
Depends on the time of day, right?
That's right. I'm going to say coffee because I do it more regularly. Yeah.
Yeah. We're in wine country, so it's and
We are
great coffee,
too.
so it's a tough question.
Yeah, Pinot Noir here in Oregon is mwah.
Love it. And the final one, a word that sums up this chapter of your life.
Fulfilling.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an
Ernie.
absolute pleasure. And thank you, Ernie, your starring little role there.
Thank you, Scott.
It's been great to
Yeah.
hear about your journey and your insights. And while that's all we've got time for on this episode of Creative Glue, please join us next time as we continue to explore the connections that bring creatives together.
Your ideas and my ideas will stick together like glue. 'Cause we've got the creative